west, past net.
Proclamation for dissolving the present Parliament and declaring the calling of another.
The venerable buildings are shortly to house a new consortment of members, some of the previous regime, others new. In a few minutes' time, the names of the new incumbents will begin to filter through, and we've not long to speculate. So let's be at it. Geoffrey Lloyd to the last session before dissolution. He is surely safe at Bewdley, and Mr. Lloyd too in Ladywood. Mr. Baldwin made a very effective election interview.
There are a million good reasons why you should support the national government. They are to be found in the homes where, owing to the trade revival, 1 million breadwinners are now drawing a regular wage instead of searching for work. The government's first aim is to keep that trade revival in being. But I warn you that the opposite will happen if confidence is shattered by political upheavals. Our second aim is social improvement. Our housing and slum clearance campaigns are already far beyond anything that has ever been attempted before. We must push ahead with them. In addition, we want to build up a fitter nation by expanding our health and educational services. Above all, we desire to go on working to maintain world peace and strengthen the League of Nations. But it is clear from recent events that both our own influence in the world and that of the League itself will be weakened unless we make good the gaps in our own defences.
Major Attlee, who leads the Parliamentary Labour Party, was not perhaps so happy.
The government has had 4 years of complete power. Why has it not acted? It is a servant of the Conservative Party. Its annual conference made 3 demands: a stronger House of Lords, more compensation for slum landlords, and greater armaments. This was his master's voice. Labour's conference demanded peace, disarmament, employment, leisure, education, houses, and pensions for all.
Sir Herbert Samuel voiced a subdued appeal for independent liberalism.
The Liberal Party has presented to the country its own policy and programme, which is neither conservative nor socialist, and we urge that the best interests of Britain and of the Empire would be served by a largely increased Liberal representation in the next Parliament.
To their constituencies we have traced them during the last fortnight. Mr. Lloyd George, the happy warrior, conversing with his constituents in their native Welsh. Mr.Hore Belisha, so absorbed in his electioneering at Devonport as to be oblivious of his own traffic rules. Mr. Winston Churchill, arriving to be nominated at Epping in a genuine Winstonian hat. Mr. Randolph Churchill, counselling the electors of West Toxteth to see what two can do. Mr. J.H.Thomas, exploring avenues in the air over Derby. Mr. Ramsey MacDonald, putting up a gallant fight at Sion. Assisted by his daughters Isobel and Sheila. Mr. Eden receiving the Freedom of Leamington.
The war is to hate it for its blind destruction and its callous cruelty.
Sir John Simon in Spen Valley, eluding the caresses of a fair supporter and making his intentions perfectly clear. Sir Kingsley Wood, dispensing cheerfulness over his prospects in Woolwich. And the opposition, Jimmy Maxton, getting a good hand in Glasgow. While his fellow Clydesider, David Kirkwood, is collecting a few votes outside John Brown's yard, where work progresses on the Queen Mary. Arthur Greenwood, favoured for the party leadership, doing a bit of canvassing in Wakefield. Herbert Morrison, also favoured for the leadership, pondering matters in Hackney South. And the ladies, Mrs. Marion Power, youngest woman candidate, a socialist, hoping to win Hornsey not on her youth but on the Labour programme.
Thank you very much. It's perfectly true I am the youngest woman candidate, but I don't see what that has got to do with politics, because the Labour programme is the same whether the candidate is young or old.
Lady Astor, first woman to sit in Parliament, seeking re-election in Plymouth. And finally, don't let us forget a very sporting candidate who has taken on one of the toughest constituencies he could find. The Daily Mail's motoring editor, Movietone's editor, Sir Malcolm Campbell, for whom most of us here will hope a very gallant success.
I stand by the programme of the national government as outlined by the manifesto which has recently been published and which no doubt you have all read. And I sincerely believe that only by carrying out that programme can the peace of the nation be assured, more employment and a higher standard of living for us all.
While we sit here, the last papers in 220 constituencies are being counted, and while the counters are still busy, we must continue to speculate on who's who. And now let us swiftly turn the page for a meditation on old age.